Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick and today guys we're going to be jumping down into the world of Cardano's ADA, having a look at what's been going on most recently with the price action and what we think is likely to happen next. As I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new to the channel, why not subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications and you will not miss another video update. And yeah, if you haven't yet joined us in Discord, guys, you are missing a trick. It's the first place we go to notify you of the ins and the outs of everything that's happening here in the crypto space. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there. Go ahead, check it out. Linked in the description down below. Okay, let's make a start with this, right? So Cardano paired up with USDT on the hourly chart, and Binance is the data source. And as you can kind of see, we have started to kind of have a bit of a move to the upside. And God forbid if I use the word pump, but I'm going to, and there we go. So yeah, we've had a little bit of a pump to the upside, about 13% from our local low. Okay, now this end of structure down here was actually something that was quite difficult to find because we kept overextending. Like if I zoom right the way back out of here, you can kind of see how this was our first kind of area of thought, and then we came down and we thought, okay, well possibly 27 was going to be where we should be ending, and then we just kept overextending and overextending, and we finally found this local low down here towards 23 cents. And since then we have moved up a fair amount. The rest of the market has moved up as well, and a lot of this is kind of driven from lots of different kind of outside factors as well, such as the DXY. Now, for the most part, we're looking at this pretty interesting kind of structural move to the upside here. So what we want to do is we want to ascertain how much further we can go here before we start to correct back down, and whether or not this is a part of a bigger move to the upside, or whether or not this is just corrective and we can now start thinking about that next break down for Cardano's ADA. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So if we come into here, we can kind of see lots of different interesting kind of structures to start with. So we're not going to go into the real sub micro counts because I think it's a bit much for this video, but there are what I believe to be a zigzag pattern right in here. Okay, so it's an ABC structure. We then can use a WXY to be more technically correct in here. Okay, and that would be a 335 by the looks of it. So we go zigzag up, three waves coming down, and then we get this this move here. Now I do think this is also going to be a zigzag pattern, but I think we're going to have to end on a diagonal. So if I grab hold of this, actually I don't think that's going to be the correct way of doing it. Let me actually grab it from here, as I do not think we're going to have huge amounts of momentum, but let's go ahead and just check with this. Okay, so we've already met the one-to-one, so maybe it does need to be a little bit more than that. Let's go ahead and check it on this side whilst we're here. I think that this is the high. And if I pull this up to here, it would say about 28. I don't think we're going to go as high as 28. I'm going to focus in on a couple of other areas, and I think this area here is going to be the important one. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this in. Now, one of the things that's really important here is that we should note that there's this entire gap right here that hasn't been tested. Okay, so we could actually get reversal from anywhere, but I would say it's probably going to be on the lower end of this box, which would come in at around 27.99. Okay, so it could be 28 cent flat because Binance loves that, and if we check this wick, it probably is. Actually, it's 27.98. So yeah, so fair enough. Just kind of keep an eye on that. Now, when you have gaps like these, they tend to get filled. We can see that we are kind of finding resistance at the moment up here at 27.13. And obviously, if I draw another line in right here, draw this across to here, we can see that it's basically between these two levels. This is the gap that hasn't been filled. So I would say that that's probably the area that we're going to be having to think about, right? So right inside this little gap just here between 27.13 and 27.98. Okay, so that's going to be the area that we're going to be looking for and where I think we're likely to kind of end here when it comes to Cardano. Now, the structure towards the end here, I think, is going to be a diagonal, and this is based on the fact that we have this kind of five-wave structural move going up, but we do not have a structure here that supports another impulsive run. Instead, it looks more diagonal based. And this is going to be interesting. It's a bit too soon to be 100% certain on that, because we can have a leading diagonal into the wave 1, and then we go impulsive on the wave 2 for wave 3, for example. But looking at it at the moment, I would be thinking that we probably will end up with a diagonal structure that will end up breaking down. So if we come into here, we'll just use a parallel channel for this, just to kind of illustrate what I think is potentially going to happen here. And I'll draw this in. I think I might have to just tweak this just a fraction like this. Okay, and then I'll just extend this up here. It would look like something like this, and I think we're going to end up in this little area. And what I'm thinking is you have this kind of wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, and then wave 5. Okay, and we end up in here. We probably have to test that upper area just there. Okay, and I think that's then where we end up with this break to the downside. And again, this is the usual trap as well that you find with the higher highs and the higher lows that always tend to break to the downside. I say always, but has a high probability of breaking to the downside. So essentially this fair value gap area, I do think is something that we're going to have to be considering. Looking at the structure here, it looks like we started with 3 waves to the upside. We're looking for corrective action, maybe to 3 waves to the downside, then up and then down and so forth. Our momentum indicator is overbought on our 1 day, 8 hour, 4 hour, but not on the 16 minute even. So the 1 hour chart. The 1 hour chart here is of course oversold. So we'll support this wave 3. We'll probably just bounce around a little bit, complete this structure out, and essentially this would be a zigzag pattern but with an ending diagonal, which you don't tend to find too often. A little bit more complicated maybe. You end up with that structure there. Essentially this entire thing, when the time it is done, is a double zigzag, which would be an A, B, and C structure like so. And that then I think is where we then start to have that next break to the downside, where I would target below the local low over here at 23, and I would be targeting out that 22. So I think we've got that slightly higher range, just short of 28 cent, before we then move on down. And then again, we can argue that this could be another 5-wave drop. Or it could be something else altogether. 5-wave drop would probably be more interesting, because I do think we have some real interesting kind of structures in here now that could potentially lead us down into zigzag patterns into these lows. Overall though, I'm pretty confident in Cardano, so I'm not too fussed about this potential move to the downside. Some cheaper rates would be pretty good, and I think that will really be quite a fantastic way to come to accumulate more, whilst also being able to have entered in at the lows and come out at the top, for example, at least these local lows and local tops. Essentially, one of the biggest things that we should always be aware of though is the basics, which is that when we are setting up these higher highs and these higher lows, we always tend to break to the downside, and that's exactly what's been going on here within this last little section. So ultimately everything's looking pretty good for Cardano. If I come up into the daily, you can kind of see how this is structuring out, and kind of where I think things could potentially be going slightly longer term and all that kind of stuff. So we are looking for a bear market bottom here. Whether this is going to remain 22 or whether or not we're going to have to come down and come into these lower ranges, I do not know just yet. Essentially, it'll be very, very interesting to kind of see how it does play out. And I do think, that no matter where Cardano does go, the price action doesn't represent the value of what is being built there. So if we do end up with really cheap prices on ADA, that would be a fantastic thing in my eyes. I'm going to leave this video right there though, guys. If you have found it useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all the notifications, and in doing so you will stay up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't joined us in Discord, link to the description below, check it out. And if you want more information about Elliott Wave Theory, why not check out cheekyschool.com. We're running 50% off all the courses that we have available there. Till the next one, guys, have a fantastic day.